I'm going to make a Biltong dryer. I've seen quite a few on the internet using plastic boxes and things like that, or making a wooden box. I decided to go a little bit sort of shabby chic retro, so I picked up this 1950s or maybe even late 50s, early 60s cabinet. It's a teak cabinet, 10 quid, eBay. It's made by Austin Sweet, which is a London-based company back in, like I say, the 50s and 60s. And the reason I wanted to use, you know, an old cabinet is just the build quality is so much better, and it'll just look quite cool too. It's got nice little sort of finishes on it, and you can just tell it's, you know, it's a quality bit of furniture. Right, Biltong dryer. First thing you're really going to need is some sort of forced air. So we've got PC fans. I'm going to have a small one at the bottom forcing air in, and I'm going to have a larger one on the top which is taking air away, which is a circulation of air going through the dryer. These are 12 volt, so you need to have a you need to reduce 240 volt, which is the UK power, down to 12 volt. So you've got a transformer there. That was 5 quid, that was 4 quid, that was £5, so not too expensive. You need to warm the air as well, and the easiest way to do that without getting too hot is with a light bulb. So we're going to have a light bulb fitted inside as well, and it'll basically put the warm air over the light bulb area, and it'll heat the air up, and then it'll draw it out through the top, so there's warm air going through the meat in the cabinet. You're going to need light bulbs. I've got two there. I've got 40 watt and a 60 watt, just to see which one gives the right sort of temperature. I'm also going to put in a switch so we can isolate the bulb and the fans, and I'm going to wire it all through a decent sort of junction box as well. For safety, I'm going to use a circuit breaker, just in case we have sort of any sort of power outages that's too high. And we've got some spare wires. Power is going to go to this switch, and also the transformer wires are going to go through here as well. Some connector blocks as well, in case I need to sort of connect up some bits and pieces. And for hanging the meat, some people use rods. I think these are £1 each, and they're basically hanging basket chains, but it's going to be nicer if you use chains, and you'll see when I've done it. I'm going to have chains running across the top, and then I can hang my hooks and the meat off the chains. So these are straightforward British hooks. They were cheap as well. They were 99p for 10, so I've got 20 of those. This shelf's going to come out, and this is going to be used as a bulb shroud, because what I don't want is any sort of drips dripping on the electrics. And also when that's that way around, when that's in there with a bulb in it, and I'll flange the sides out, this will actually warm up, and then when the fan hits this, it will help to radiate the heat upwards. So I've got a big tin there. Also, we don't want insects coming into our Biltong dryer, flies and stuff, so I've got some little fly screens there which can cover the vent holes and the fans, and a bigger one for the top. It's going to go up there. And here I've got a baking tray, and I've cut a hole out there, and the idea is that once the fan is fitted in here, obviously the air can still come through it, but any drips are going to drip on the tray. Some people just put sort of tin foil around the bottom to catch it, but I just made a little tray, had it knocking around. The fan is going to be, one fan's going to be under here, and I'm going to puncture or drill holes all the way around here using those little fly screens, and then it will draw the air through those holes up through the fan onto the bulb. Heat's going to radiate up through the hanging meat, and then the top fan's going to take the fumes away. The other thing I'm going to do is, because the front looks a little bit plain, and if I want to check my meat, I'm going to have to keep opening it. But I've also found on eBay this old clock, but it's actually a ship's porthole. So I'm going to take the porthole off, stick that on the front, and then I'll be able to see what's happening inside, because it'll be lit up as well, without having to open up the door. So that's the plan. I've got all the bits, so I'll put it all together and I'll do another video when it's complete. That's the drilling done, that's all the holes cut. It's turned out quite well. I think we'll have enough air going in now. And obviously the extraction fan's going to be there, and that's for the porthole window at the front. And shelves come out, that's going to be the induction coming in and the exit there, and I'll drill some holes for the electrics as well. So yeah, all in all, it's coming on well. Right, I fitted the bulb holder, and using one of these big tins, I've made, ta-da! It's basically a bulb shroud. So the idea is that this will go over the bulb, and the bulb will warm up. The tin will warm up, the fan will blow air over the tin, and then warm air will rise and dry the meat out. Also, any sort of drips from the hanging meat won't hit the bulb element, it'll just run down the sides of the tin and then collect in the tray underneath. So that's my bulb shroud. Hopefully it should work. Okay, I've finished my Biltong Dryer. It's quite steampunk now with the porthole fitted. It turned out quite well, quite pleased with it. Only problem I had was the transformer, the 12 volt transformer. It takes 240 to 12 volt. I bought an AC one, which was for a for lighting. What you need is a DC transformer, otherwise it won't work. But no, it's all fixed now. I'll put mesh in the holes here, as you can see. Stop the flies going in. And obviously we've got our 120mm fan at the top and an 80mm at the bottom, drawing air in. And inside, I've got the 80mm fan just underneath here, underneath that plate. I've got mesh on there as well, but I found it wasn't drawing enough air through, so I put another 3 air holes there to help with drawing the air in. This gets nice and hot. I've put a 100 watt bulb in there now. I tried the 40 and a 60, but to get it nice and warm, it's taken 100 watt. And we've got a nice switches here. I'll plug it in a minute. And the wiring's quite tidy. Done a nice little job with the wiring. And the hooks, I use these hanging basket chains like I said I was going to, and I can then move my hooks around wherever I want inside. So yeah, all in all, it's turned out okay. I'll plug it in and you can see how it works. The porthole, it's a reproduction one. It came off a clock, that I bought off eBay for the bargain price of £4.20, and like I say, it does open when so yeah, you could even open it up if you wanted to inspect your biltong, you know, when it's drying. Well, I'll plug it in, you can see it fired up. Right, circuit breaker, and like I say, I've got the switches inside, and I've got the lighting, and the fan. It's not too noisy, it's not the quietest fan in the world, but it was probably one of the cheapest. It was £4.80 for the top one. I think it's £3.50 or something, £3.80 I think for the bottom one. So cheap fans, but I'll see how long they last. You can spend more money on fans. But like I say, I've not made one before, so I thought I'd use cheap materials first, just to sort of test it. And to give you an idea of how well the fans work, we're drawing the air through. That's it. Brilliant. Well, I suppose I better make some biltong now and dry it out. Okay, going to make some biltong. I've never made it before. I've cured different types of meat before, but never made biltong. The meat I'm using, they say for the best biltong use fillet or top side. This is top rump, so it's rump steak, but it's basically the top end. So it's still quite lean, but it has got a little bit of fat going through it, which will help to keep the biltong moist. Yeah, it's on sale in Tesco's as well. This big lump cost me, oh, how much was this one? This one was £11, so it's pretty cheap. There's the grain. You can see where the grain is running through the meat, and for biltong you cut it with the grain. You don't want to saw through meat when you're making steaks, which is basically what you're doing. So you want a longish blade, or longer blade you can get. I'm going to be using my old machete, Tramontina machete. I've sharpened it up, but it's got a lovely long blade that I can just saw I can draw all the way through to get some nice even steaks. I'm going to do these about 20mm thick. Yeah, about 2 centimetres thick. So let's see how they turn out. There's one little bit. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Right. That's what we want to sort of have. I don't mind leaving a bit of the fat on it as well. I can always cut it off once it's cured. Like I say, it does help to keep it a little bit moist as well. Obviously you need a good sharp blade, so I've just sharpened this one. It has got a carbon blade, so it does keep a very good edge. It's very easy to sharpen as well. You can see what I mean by having a long blade. You can get all the way through the strip of meat. That's good. Excellent. Let's show what we've got. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish. So 10 good steaks out of that. Yeah, not bad meat. Like I say, you can see It's got a lovely bit of marbling going through it, but it's still quite lean. So I hope it's just come out really nicely. Right, the next stage is to marinate it in the vinegar. Marinade time. Vinegar. Use a nice sort of vinegar, like a wine vinegar, red wine, white wine vinegar. I found this sherry vinegar, so I'd give that a whirl. It's got to have a good acidity level. This is 7% acidity. You don't want anything less than 5%. And I'm also going to use some Lee & Perrins Worcester sauce. It's a 3-to-1 mix, so 3 parts vinegar, 2 Worcester sauce. I've already prepared some here. I'll put a little bit in the bottom, and I'm just going to lay our steaks in there, and I'm going to leave mine for an hour. You could put a weight on the top, so you could always put a board on the top. I might do that actually. So a little board here, I could put that on top, and it'll just submerge, help to submerge your briny sort of marinade in meat. And then what you can do is get yourself something heavy. Probably the easiest thing to do is to grab a saucepan, fill it up, and I'll push down on the whole lot. Wicked. I'll pop that on there. Look at that. That's it, all submerged. Well, I'll leave that for half an hour, and then I'll take the meat out, flip it over, and alternate it round again. Whilst we're waiting for the meat to marinate in our vinegar Worcester sauce mix, I'll just talk you through this. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to bury the meat in a mixture of salt, sea salt, fine sea salt, and I've got some brown demerara sugar. Also a teaspoon of bicarbonate soda. So I'll mix these two together in the big box with a teaspoon of bicarb, and then we'll physically bury the meat in that. That's part of the curing process. We'll flip it over again sort of halfway through that process. So I'll do that in a bit. The other thing we can do now is make our coating, our covering, which is going to give it that spice, that kick, that extra flavour. I'm going to mix some garlic powder, teaspoon of garlic powder, with a teaspoon of coriander seeds, teaspoon of black peppercorns, well it's mixed actually, white and black peppercorns in there, and some green chilli. It's a mixture of flakes and seeds in there, so that should be quite nice. So I'll say 1 teaspoon of each in the pestle water, grind it up. Not too fine, because we want to have a nice sort of a grainy texture to it. So I'll crack on with that. Next stage, it's had an hour in the vinegar Worcester sauce brine, and I did turn it halfway through just to get the meat, you know, flipped over, to get the bottom ones on the top, top ones on the bottom. Next thing we need to do is obviously get our meat out. We don't want to waste the vinegar. We'll use that later. We're going to wash the salt and sugar mix off. So I'll just use this pan. Just going to get rid of the water that was in there. Okay. Get these out. Where's it gone? Oh yeah, over here. Yeah, if you remember, sea salt and brown sugar, and I've used it's not, yeah, but it's about half and half. This is a little bit more salt than there is sugar. and obviously it's got a teaspoon of bicarb of soda as well. I think the bicarb, the idea of that is it will neutralise the acidity in the meat, so just stop it sort of reacting too much. And then we're literally going to just bury this in the salt and sugar. Pack them in nice and tight. We'll make sure each side gets a good coating of the mix. Once again, more sugar and salt. This will, the blood and the vinegar will leach out of the meat. It will mix with the salt and sugar and become a lovely salty, sweet, briny mixture. And that 3 hours, I will actually turn it halfway through, just same again to make sure everything gets a good even mix of this. Right, I'll stick that in the fridge, turn it in an hour and a half, leave it for another hour and a half, and I'll show you what we do next. Right, the meat's had 3 hours in the salt and sugar brine, and I turned it all over once, so it's had like an hour and a half with the meat flipped over. So as you can see, it's all gone liquidy and briny, and the meat's actually gone a little bit tougher as well. So the next stage is going to be to rinse that all off with the vinegar that we kept, and dry it all off with a kitchen towel, and get ready with for the coatings. Right, remember the vinegar that we saved? We're going to use this just to wash the steaks down, to get off any of that excess salt that was on it, and then we'll pat them dry afterwards. There we go, excellent. Right, that's all that's left of the vinegar. I could chuck that now, and then what we'll do with the steaks, I'll take them out one at a time, and using kitchen towel I'll dab them dry, and then we'll put the dust in, the coatings on. Right, now it's time for spice coatings. This is the spices I used with the pestle and mortar, and all we're going to do is we're going to put it on our plate, then get a piece of meat and sprinkle it on. And just repeat this process, all of them. Right, that's all my steaks dried and spiced and ready to hang. So we're through to the final stage now, and open up our dryer. And we're just going to hang them like that. Well, that's all the meat hung up. I've put the dryer under the kitchen table because there's a radiator at the back there, and that will help with the drying process. It's all hanging up nicely. Filled it right up, even the tiny little bits are hanging off little hooks. So there's only one thing left to do, which is turn on the fans, close her up, and we'll see how she is in 3 or 4 days. Okay, we're up to day 3 now, so we're all done. Wow. There it is. I'll take it out and we'll slice it up and test it. That's it, it's all done, all dried, cured. Looks good. And the texture's really good too. It's not rock hard. It's still got a bit of, you know, texture to it. And it tastes really good. Yum.